Hello my friends, it's Justin again coming for the first solo video lesson, meaning that I'm by myself, not that it's about lead guitar. And what this lesson is going to be about is bar chords. A lot of people when they first start playing bar chords say that they have a bit of difficulty trying to get all of the notes clear and clean, so I'm going to try and explain to you where the bar chord comes from, the basic kind of shape, like you might have learned an F chord. It's called an E-shaped bar chord, but I'll give you a few tips on making sure that you get the fingering kind of good for that. So the first thing is that I already mentioned before, it's an E shape. So where the very first bar chord shape that most people learn is based really by playing, if you started by playing a regular E chord, which I'm hoping you know, you should know your E chord good before you try and play an bar chord with an E shape. If you re-fingered that chord, i.e. change the fingers that you use but keep the kind of the dots the same, so you'd end up using your second, third and fourth fingers and your first finger is free, and I'm going to go for a close-up on this in a sec. I've just got to figure out how to do that in a sec. So once that chord shape is down, if you move that shape up and put your first finger down, your first finger is replacing the nut. The nut is the little plastic or bone, usually white thing down at the end of the guitar neck. So you can see very clearly that we've got an E chord. If we move everything up one fret and then put your first finger in the first fret, your first fret has replaced the nut. And that's the reason it's an F chord, is because it's all the same notes, just everything's been moved higher by one semitone. So now I'm going to just give you a close-up of that, exactly this E to the F movement, and then we'll move it up to an A or something, and I'll give you some stuff. So I'll just get my little fancy remote control thing here and see if I can figure out how to get the camera to do a close-up on my hand. So I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, that didn't seem too bad. So here we are on a close-up. So if we start here with our regular old faithful E chord, so we've got first finger, first fret, third string, second finger, and the second fret, fifth string, and third finger underneath. Remember, of course, you're trying to get this finger up as close to the fret as you can, but you can't get it right next door because the third finger there is kind of blocking the way a bit. So that's your basic E chord. So your first attempt at playing a bar chord, you should try and move your second finger to where your first finger was. Your third finger moves to where your second finger was, and your little finger sneaks up there underneath. So you've now got second finger, first fret, third string, third finger on the fifth string, second fret, and little finger underneath on the fourth string. So you can see now that your first finger is free to wave and do stupid dances and stuff. Okay, so that's your E chord. Now to get to F, you move all of those notes up one fret, and the first finger now goes down and covers all of the strings. Now even though it's covering all of the strings, because your second, third and fourth finger are covering strings 3, 4 and 5, you're only really needing to cover the thickest string and the thinnest two strings. But in order to do that, you kind of want to put your pressure, focus your pressure like it's here in the middle of the bar. That's the place that you kind of focus your, if you like, your energy. I know it sounds a bit funny hippie stuff, but it's, you really, if you think about pressing down in the middle of the finger, it'll make the two ends help press down kind of consistently. Now the other thing with bar chords that's really important, the second, third and fourth fingers are kind of standard. Make sure that they're pressing down and not trying to lay over like that. Regular E, moving up to F. Now when you put the bar down, don't try and press down, flat down that way with the first finger. Actually what you're trying to do here is you're trying to roll over. If the part of your finger, there's my hand, the part of the finger that presses down for the bar is here. It's not the flat like this. It's not that part there that presses. It's this kind of on the diagonal of your finger, the edge. So what you do is you put your first finger down flat, kind of right on the bar itself. So that would be behind the bar. You can see the bar there now. So this is like right on the bar, and then you roll it slightly onto the side, and then your fingers go down. Now by doing that, you kind of, as you probably know, your first finger doesn't really want to move a lot either way sideways. I know you can move it a little bit, but it doesn't tend to want to. So if you're trying to think of your bar chord grip like this, then when you're trying to, if you try and turn your hand that way on the guitar neck here, so this way, you're putting the pressure sideways with the first finger. Think of the pressure as going sideways, not as going straight down. It'll make it an awful lot easier to get your bar chord really solid. So put it down on the fret, roll it over onto the side, so it's kind of like 45 degrees, it's not the side, and then put your other fingers down. Make sure, of course, that you practice picking your notes one at a time, making sure that you get a nice clear chord. Also make sure that your first finger isn't hanging over the end too much. I see some people trying to do their bar chords with way too much of the first finger flopping over. So keep it down, so that basically the idea would be if you moved it down to a 5th string root bar chord, which we're not going to talk about yet, but if you did, the first finger, the tip of it would be muting the 6th string. But we want it so it's, you know, half a centimetre over the end. You know, what's that, a quarter of an inch or something like that for you Americans who don't have the metric system going on yet. Okay, so the main thing with the bar chord is making sure you put it flat, roll it over onto the side, keep the pressure focused in the middle of your first finger, and make sure the rest of your fingers are square and not laid over like that. Make sure that they're kind of square up like that.